Great. So when you have figured out what you do and figured out who you do it for to some degree, now it's time to create your 30-second sales pitch. I used to call it an elevator pitch, that if you had a couple of minutes in an elevator with somebody, or a lift in the UK, you'd want to be able to absolutely answer the question, so what do you do, in that 2-minute elevator ride. But 30 seconds, I think, is a really nice, punchy way to describe what it is that you do. If you can get it down to 30 seconds, great. If you've got a little bit longer, then take a little bit longer. So once you've got an idea, then we can start honing this pitch. Now, this pitch then becomes the basis for websites, the basis for Instagram, because in a nutshell, it will describe the purpose of you and what and your services and what you do. Now, I explain when I started out, I went to a networking event. I was very new, very sort of wet behind the ears, as they say. And I went to this networking event and I met this lovely guy. And this guy was another example of someone who, he had no website. He didn't have a domain name. He was earning about £10,000 a day consultancy. It was amazing what he was doing. And he was doing it all on referrals because he was so good at the talk, the chat. He had amazing referrals from other organizations. He had a good CV, as it were, but he was still a consultant without a website. And that really reminded me for many years afterwards that it is all about how you come across to people and what you can do. And anyway, so he introduced himself and he said, so what do you do? And I said, I'm a coach. And he said, I didn't ask what you are. I said, what do you do? And he was playing with me a little bit and being a little bit cheeky and, kind of tongue in cheek about it. But he was pretty hard on me. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? He said, well, coach doesn't mean anything to me. Like, I don't know, you could say, I'm a transactional florist. It's like, what's that? So you can't just expect people to understand what you do from you telling them what you are. So you can tell them what you are. I'm a coach, but you need to then follow up. So what do you do? What are you? What do you call yourself? I'm a coach. I'm a breakthrough coach. I'm a transactional florist, whatever you want to call yourself. I'm, the spiritual alchemist, or whatever it is that you're going to call yourself. And then what do you do and how do you do it? Who do you do it for are the next questions. So what are you? What do you call yourself? Who do you help? Now, this is where you would then say, I specialize in helping people who, and it could be that you chunk down from people to, I specialize in helping athletes, or I specialize in helping business people, or small business owners, or children, or families, or parents, or women in their 40s, whatever it is. So if you do have a customer avatar, you can start being a little bit more clear about who it is that you help. So I specialize in helping, then your demographic, your customer avatar, people who, or I specialize in helping people too. That's the other one. So it might be, I specialize in people who are going through a divorce to what? And it could be do have whatever they want. It could be to release trauma. It could be to overcome phobias. It could be stop smoking. It could be anything. So whatever it is that you do, again, chunk level, find a chunk level that you're happy with that works for your customer avatar. So I help people, a nice big chunk. 2, they do have anything that they want, but that's about as generic as you can get. The next question is, how do you do that? So I've had lots of people say, oh, I'm a transformational consultant, but that means nothing to me. Okay, so you work with small businesses to help them increase their bottom line, let's say. But I still don't know how you do it. I've got no pictures in my head as to how you do that. Do you do that by working with the CEO? Do you do that by doing some training? Do you do that by looking at their systems, like reading, auditing their accounts? I don't know. Do you do it by working with their marketing team? I have no idea until you tell me, because there's lots of different ways you could be working. So give me a sense of how you do it. Do you do it by training, working, a bit of consultancy, working with the CEO? What do you do? How do you do it? So if it's coaching, what's your kind of methods? You don't have to give away the recipe. But if I was saying I help people to do have anything that they want by getting clear, one-to-one coaching, where we get clear on what it is that they want, and then we work on releasing those limiting beliefs holding them back. And we do that by working with the subconscious. I use a number of interventions like NLP, for example, to rewire the subconscious for success. You can go into as much or as little detail as you like, as long as you've got a sense afterwards of, oh, okay, so one-to-one coaching and there's something around the subconscious and, it's a bit more transformational. Got it. And then you want to give a generic example after that, or an example or a specific example of somebody you've helped. So, for example, I worked with, the Liverpool football team to achieve this level of success. And obviously you have to be careful in terms of what you're allowed to talk about. So if it's a very public example, then that's fine. If it's a corporate example, it's fine. If it's an individual, then obviously you have to just say, I worked with a lady going through a divorce to have a really amicable and effective divorce, where we ensured that her and her husband were getting, her ex-husband were getting on, and they came up with some really great ways of being able to help the family get through the divorce in a most amicable way possible, by working on her triggers that were coming up, healing a lot of the wounds from the marriage, and she's now completely, the family are really happily gone their separate ways and so on. So give them a specific example in as much depth as you want, as long as it's not a person's name. And then finally, what was really useful, this guy at the networking event, he was like, great, now I get it. Now I get who you are. But I'm about to go and talk to all these people at this networking event. So why don't you give me an even more important version of what you do, which is what you would do for me. And then I've completely got it in my head, what you do, and I can then tell everybody about it. And he said, so tell me what you would do for me. Give me an example. So I thought for a moment, and I was like, okay, so this is a successful guy. I thought, okay, he's a successful guy. And I was thinking, okay, well, has he mentioned any pain points to me? And I think he'd mentioned something about sometimes he had a bit of a crisis of confidence sometimes when he was asked, when he was sort of asking for his day rate, sometimes he would have a bit of a crisis of confidence. So I thought to myself, great, okay, there's a perfect example. Okay, so someone like you, successful guy, they do have anything that they want, but with someone like you, I would say, right, that experience that you have of doubting yourself when you ask for that day rate, which is a great day rate, that's something that we would rewire in your subconscious, so you were totally aligned with it, which would then help you be completely confident about asking for it, give you a little bit more inner peace, and give you the focus that you could just get on with the rest of your job without worrying about the asking for money bit. And he was like, I love it. I love that. Now he said, now I've got it. Now I got what you do. I even want to have coaching with you, and it was just a lovely kind of tying it up in a little bow. So that's your 30-second sales pitch. Put it all together. I'm a breakthrough coach. I specialize in helping entrepreneurs to transform their relationships by healing their relationship blueprints. For example, I helped a young entrepreneur overcome his issues with jealousy, help the couple to master skills such as emotional intimacy. If I worked with you, we would identify any pain points in your relationship. We would heal the cause of each one in your blueprint and watch your relationship transform. So that's a nice generic one. So come up with your own one at whatever chunk level you're ready to work at. If it's coach, if it's breakthrough coach, if it's whatever you want to call yourself, and then wherever you're ready to describe your customer avatar, and write it down and then memorize it. Because remember, you don't want to keep anything you do a secret. You want to be ready to go with your sales pitch the moment that you get the opportunity.